Welcome everyone to League 101. This is my first time doing this presentation. So, feel free to, if I miss anything or if you've any questions, just kind of let me know and, we can clarify some stuff. So with that, I will go ahead and get started. So the tagline of League of Women Voters is making democracy work, empowering voters, defending democracy. Overall, our main goal is promoting active citizens, educated voters, and good government. The founding of the League, well, I have to do the 2022. We're 102 years old as an organization. A couple of years ago, we had our centennial celebration, but the founding of the League was February 14th, so Valentine's Day, in 1920 by Carrie Chapman Catt to help educate women on the right to vote. So a lot of, our relationship to the story of women's suffrage is we were founded at once women's suffrage was ratified or ready. So it was kind of taking the activism, the advocacy of giving women the right to vote and expanding on it into, now women have the right to vote. What do we do to make them as informed as possible? And the history of the suffragettes and the suffragists is, a little bit complicated, and there are some, race tensions that sort of happened with it. So I think part of, what we actively try to do is, kind of right a lot of the wrongs of history as well. So, we also very much founded in, civil rights, and, a lot of the work that we do now is advocacy around sort of social justice, civil rights. We have an active program of voting in the jails and advocacy around that. So, we've kind of sort of taken it to the next level in, this day and age. So don't let the name fool you. The League of Women Voters is for everyone. So ever since, I believe it was 1974 was the first time a man was brought into the League. And ever since then, we have been for, all people can join. So, as long as you're 18 years of age and over, you can be a member of the League. We do have a special program for students that is our student affiliate program. But, the League is for everyone, and we encourage participation in the League from, all different kinds of people. Our mission, the League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan civic organization encouraging informed and active participation in government. LWV influences public policy through education and advocacy. So one of the things that I personally love about being a part of the League of Women Voters is our commitment to being nonpartisan. So I think in this day and age, when everything is so, this political party, this elected official, that elected official, those sorts of bickering and fighting, what the League's foundation is built around is issues and advocacy in a nonpartisan sense. So for us, it's not about, we don't endorse or support any particular candidates or political party. What we do is instead focus on the issues and advocate. It's not our, that issues have been co-opted by different political parties, and they kind of use that as their rallying cry. At the end of the day, there are issues that defy political party and become issues of equality and civil rights and being, citizens of the world. And those are the things that we use as our foundation in our work. So our principles and values, we believe in representative government, individual liberties, separation of powers, transparency in government, the right to vote, and free and fair elections. And so, as a foundation in all of the work that we do, these are things that we carry into, our work in the world. We do have a commitment that we are stronger because of how diverse we are. Diverse perspectives are critical for responsible and effective decision-making in democratic organizations. We are committed to removing barriers to participation for any league activity on the basis of age, race, gender, disability, sexual orientation, religion, or national origin, and to be actively seeking to be inclusive. So we actually do have a committee on diversity and inclusion. We've had it for a few years now, and we have a board representative who is in charge of that committee. So if anyone is interested in sort of working on issues of diversity and inclusion, that I would recommend that committee. So as I said earlier, nonpartisan is very different than being apolitical. So we are still a political organization. We still do work in politics. This is our space, government, politics. We are actively on, in those sorts of rooms, in those sorts of conversations, but we, very firmly believe in being nonpartisan. So when we do things like candidates forums, we don't, endorsements are not part of the process in any of our elections. So we'll do things like candidates forums instead, which allows us to kind of give equal time to all the candidates and allow the voters to make a decision based on what they see. So we do take positions on particular policy issues. The way that we do take positions on things, it is a very well-researched process. It can take years for the league to, issue an official decision on a particular policy. And because of that, I see it as a very trusted source. So the things that the league believes in, I know have been very well researched. It has been seen by people of different political parties, different, different voices, different opinions. And this is what has been voted on by, our membership and our leadership in these things. So going into it, like anything that the league believes in, I'm right there being like, great, these are issues that, I'm going to fight for as well. So we're, the way that our league works is, so we are a full 501c3. Some other leagues, and especially if you've been involved in other leagues, whether it's in Illinois or in other states, sometimes it's a 501c3, sometimes it's a 501c4, sometimes it's both. So we recently consolidated into just being a 501c3, which is nonprofit status. And that allows us not only, for any memberships and donations, they're tax deductible, but also it kind of allows us to not make things, super complicated on the financial side of what we do. So general structure of how league works is we're kind of the lowest level. So there's us, then we also have the League of Women Voters of Illinois, and then we also have the League of Women Voters of the United States. And every state operates in the similar way, where you have your local leagues and you have your state league, and then you have the national that we all are members in as well. In some cases, some states have things that are called interleagues, and those are things where they don't necessarily fit into like a city or a town, but they're more regional. So we're also a member of, in our case, the Cook County League. And so, they have their own organization structure as well. And that would be fit in between the Illinois League and the Chicago League. And then there's also, you're also a member of I think I'm getting the full title correct, but the Upper Mississippi River region. So that kind of puts us in a category with a bunch of other states that also share the Mississippi River region. And then there's also the League of Women Voters like around the Great Lakes area, and like in our case, Lake Michigan region. So there's a bunch of like states that all share Lake Michigan, and we all have a league that we can talk to. So there's a bunch of different, not just having Chicago League as kind of your home base. There's a lot of other different levels to League that you can also participate in, both in terms of like attending events, joining committees, and also, taking on leadership roles in those spaces as well. Over here on the side, you can kind of see this is our current board of the Chicago League. So these are, all of the people that are in leadership positions within the Chicago League right now. So there's me as president, Catherine Mardikes is our executive vice president, Betty Magnus is our vice president of citizen engagement, Tracy Standstill is our vice president of operations, Shirley Michelson is our secretary, Hollis Burgess is our treasurer, and then we have our directors. So these are people, especially, to keep in mind if there's a particular issue that you want to focus on, these people are going to be kind of the leaders of those particular committees or topics. So we have Tina, who is in charge of advocacy, Julia Klein, she is in charge of collaborations and partnerships, Vanessa Ford, she's in charge of communications, Wytris Richardson, she's in charge of diversity and inclusion, Deborah Halpern, she's in charge of environmental action, Sharon Welch is in charge of events, specifically our Chicago in Focus series, which I'll get into a little bit later. Molly Bartlett is in charge of fund development and fundraising, and Alona Valnice is in charge of membership. Diane Atkinson is in charge of neighborhood units. So if anyone has a question about, which units that they can join or, which ones are doing activities, she would be one to reach out to. And then we have Helene Gabelnick, who is in charge of voter service. So when you join the League, you join as a member. So the way it works is, there's different tiers of membership. So in most cases, you join, just as an individual member. I rooker snookered my husband into joining. So, we have a household membership and I, drag him into a lot of League stuff too. But, we have different tiers. What a lot of people don't realize is that your membership dues, the money doesn't always go, or the money does not always go to Chicago. It gets broken up into the different tiers of League, get different amounts of your dues, which is why you become a member of all the different tiers. With that in mind, we also do have to factor in other funding sources to the work that we do. So things like donations, bequests, State of the City is our annual fundraiser, grants, event sponsorship, and something I only learned about that recently that we used to do, which was condo board elections and facilitating those, which I think is pretty cool. So, we do, what we're trying to do in this sort of next iteration of League is really ramp up our fundraising. It'll allow us to kind of really take the League to the next level in a lot of the advocacy work that we want to do. So if anyone has any fundraising experience or isn't interested in helping us sort of do a lot of events and work around fundraising and League outreach, we do have a fundraising committee you can join. If you're interested, earlier when I mentioned our well-researched policy positions, if you're interested in sort of learning where the League stands on any particular issues, National puts out, I think it's every 2 years, an impact on issues report, and you can find that on their website. State, the Illinois League also has it published on their website, and the Chicago League has it published on our website, where we stand on issues. As part of the way in which we arrive at these conclusions, we do have an issues process that we follow. So that involves, proposing a study, hosting briefings, voting on, the consensus of, where we think we should stand on that. both on the local, state, and national level where it gets voted on. And then we can take whatever, you know, our consensus is and whatever what becomes league policy, and we can take that out into the world and start promoting it. So the league, not really so much Chicago, just because, you know, we are a nonprofit now, but that you definitely see it in Illinois, and you definitely see it, especially in the national level, a big lobbying program on behalf of issues. And then you can also kind of, you know, take that into your everyday conversations about, like, you know, hey, the league believes in this stuff. Like, I think this is important. You know, going into elections, going into other issues around government and advocacy work. One of our biggest things, you know, that has been kind of about our you know, founding has been voter service. You know, it's in our name, and it's, you know, it's been there since the very beginning. So we have a very robust voter service program that includes registering voters. Around elections, we put out information as to, you know, what the dates are, who's on the ballot. We have the past few years, and I kind of lost count of how many years we've had it, but the Illinois League puts out an Illinois voter guide, which basically you can log in, type in your address, everyone who's on your ballot pops up, and it also is a questionnaire with different candidates, where they answer questions that are league created questions about, you know, particular issues, or, you know, just stuff dealing with the elected official position, and then they submit it. So you can also read the responses that the elected officials and candidates write in their questionnaires. And that's a great resource that we push around elections. We also do a lot of work in the schools. So we do have a program of going into high schools and registering voters in high schools, and to local community organizations, where, you know, we get calls all the time or emails being like, hey, can you do a voter registration drive, you know, at my community center, at my event, at my school? And, you know, we try to, you know, accommodate and work with, you know, in whatever ways with our voter service group to be able to, you know, do those work. We also do, around election time, candidates forums. So the last municipal, we had, you know, a really great program. It's a lot of work putting on candidates forums, but it's a really rewarding thing. This municipal, with the exit of a lot of the sitting aldermanic seats, we are, you know, really trying to build out a very robust candidates forum, doing as many of them for this upcoming municipal as possible. We also try to organize a mayoral debate. And then sometimes, you know, we get pulled into other sort of debates, whether it's, you know, a congressional or state rep. But we mostly, as the Chicago League, try to focus on the aldermanic mayoral. We actually last municipal did for city treasurer as well. And we had Joan Esposito come in and moderate that one. But, you know, we're really also looking to find community organizations to partner with them on these things. So, you know, we do have a board member who does collaborations and partnerships. So if you know of any local organizations that you work with, you know, whether it's your job or other community groups that you work with that, you know, you might be interested in doing candidates forums with us, you know, feel free to reach out and kind of make those connections. And then the other one is watching polls on election day. So this is a big one. I actually had a pretty traumatic experience this last primary voting, where like they decided that nothing was going to work and they were just going to stack ballots and not scan any of them. So and I was in there going like, I'm the president of the League of Women Voters of Chicago. Why can't this work properly? And, I felt bad because like they were very overwhelmed, but also like I wanted my ballot scanned and processed. So I think this is something, if you're also really interested in doing, I think it is very important work to be there watching and making sure that election day runs smoothly. Another option is also to be an election judge. So that is a program that, we don't organize. That would be with the Chicago Board of Elections, but you can apply to be an election judge on election day. And we do actually have a lot of league members who do that, including Helene, who's our voter service chair. So in addition to, work around voter service and, going out to the community, we also do have a very robust program of events and activities that we host. So these kind of take the form in a bunch of different ways. So a big one is committee meetings. So committee meetings are not regional focused. What they are is, issues focused. So if you're interested in education and analyzing, the education system in Chicago, Cook County, or Illinois, we have a committee for that. If you're interested in diversity and inclusion, we have a committee for that. Committees can be both issues focused and also kind of administrative focused. So, because we are a volunteer-based organization, we do need help on things like, updating the website or social media or, fundraising. And we do have committees that are more geared towards the administrative side as well as the issues side. One of the big committees that is pretty new to our organization is environmental action. So I don't know if you've seen, or if you've opened some of our newsletters, they usually like to do a thing about ways to be a little bit more environmentally friendly in every newsletter, which is great. And they also do a lot of events work around environmental issues. Our unit meetings are more geographically focused, and it's kind of a way to give people sort of like a home base. So it's kind of like nice where it's like, here are people in your neighborhood who are also league members, and you can do things much more on like the neighborhood scale. So they're not like, you can live in a different part of the city and want to join a unit in a particular neighborhood, and that's fine. Like it's not, you're, locked out based on where you live and what you can do. They're open to everyone. So some choose to be more research focused, doing presentations, that sort of thing, and then just discussion groups. And then some like to do more, get out in the community and, do things like beach cleanups and stuff like that. So those are kind of like our two sort of internal meeting kind of things. But then we also do a lot of sort of public outreach education programming as well. And so those take the form in briefings in Chicago in Focus. So a lot of times briefings, in the process of going virtually, we've kind of opened up briefings, to be sort of, everyone can come and sort of learn. And I like that because the briefings are a little bit more like education around a particular topic, so then we can be more informed ourselves and then take that work out into the world. And then Chicago in Focus is a really interesting one. So that one we do in partnership with the Union League Club, which is based downtown. And so what we used to do pre-pandemic is actually use one of their meeting rooms there and bring in a speaker. And it's a little bit more of a formal presentation, not just to Union League Club members, but to Chicago League members, and then also the general public. And then in COVID, we had to switch to virtual for those. But now our first sort of in-person hybrid one, so it'll be both, you know, in person at the Union League Club and then also filmed and live streamed online for people who want to watch it from home, will be October 6th. And it's all about the Forest Preserve referendum that's on the ballot in November. So we have speakers who are going to be coming in and sort of explaining really sort of what's at stake with this particular referendum. We also do, you know, occasionally drinks and dialogue. This is obviously like a pre-COVID type of thing, but, you know, finding like a local neighborhood spot, coming in, having a speaker, or having, you know, committee meetings come and, you know, have in person, you know, coffee or alcoholic beverages, and just kind of having in-person conversations. Our annual meeting obviously happens every year, and that is where the membership come together and you know, vote on new board members and vote on issues. And it's kind of a good way for us to sort of like all reset and kind of come together and come up with what we're going to be, you know, doing for the next year. And we usually have some kind of speaker come in for that. So this past June, we had Carol Mosley Braun come in and speak, and she gave a very interesting talk to us, and, you know, very inspiring about democracy and sort of what's at stake. So we always try to bring in an interesting speaker for
Jane,
that.
can I interrupt for just a moment?
Yeah.
We've actually added a September Chicago in Focus.
Yeah,
and
so
it's
that one's going to be all virtual though.
right. No, I just wanted to, I got them. I didn't want people to think that there isn't one until October, but we do have one on September 14th.
Yeah.
Police reform, civilian district councils, and the reduction of violence. Sorry to interrupt. Just wanted to make sure people knew about that.
Yeah, no, thank you for that, Catherine. And then we usually try to do an annual State of the City, and that's kind of like our one big fundraiser for the year. So in the past, you know, couple of years, we've had to switch to a virtual version of it. So those videos are actually available online if you wanted to check out the program. Unfortunately, our centennial celebration had to be virtual, but, you know, I think we came up with, you know, a pretty good program for it. So especially if you're interested in kind of a little bit more about the history of the league and a history of, you know, some important people within the Chicago League or work that the Chicago League has done, I highly recommend checking out the Chicago Centennial State of the City video. We're still kind of figuring out what we're going to be doing for next year's State of the City. So if anyone's interested in helping organize that, please definitely let me know. But we usually try to have some kind of speaker, give out an award, that sort of thing. So in the past, you know, we've had mayors come and speak, important people, you know, working in, you know, voting rights advocacy and stuff like that. So these are our current advocacy priorities. So this past summer, the board came together, you know, after the newly elected people came in, and, you know, we kind of decided, we kind of worked together based on feedback from our committees, from our units, from our general membership population on what do we want for this next year to focus on. And so, you know, always is built into our foundation. We have things like, you know, voting rights will always be one of our advocacy priorities. Electoral reform is a huge one. You know, we did have members who were very involved in fair maps and, you know, trying to make the redistricting process much fairer. You know, we now just got our new maps, so, but there's still plenty of work to be done. We actually on the national level, they've prioritized abolishing the Electoral College as one of their priority issues. And actually, there's an Illinois committee for abolishing the Electoral College that kind of jump-started that project. So if anyone's interested in something like that, we can connect you. Reproductive rights, always is always an issue, but especially this past year. So, luckily we live in a state that has codified, pro-choice legislation, but, with our neighboring states around here, plus elections, like 2 important elections coming up, not just November, but the municipal, really kind of reaffirming our commitment to reproductive rights and justice. Environmental action. We actually are part of other coalition groups in Chicago and Illinois who are also working on environmental stuff. And I actually co-authored with our Environmental Action Committee a op-ed directed towards the mayor and city council about restarting the Department of Environment. So you can also check that out if you're interested. Police reform and public safety. So on the Cook County League side, we have a very active criminal justice committee that has, done really amazing work. And the Chicago League, police reform and public safety is a very big issue. And so our commitment to bringing programming around that and education around that, especially now that we do have this new police council that people are going to be voting on for the next municipal, it's important to build up education around it. And then transparency in city government. So we have a really, really active city government committee. This includes people who observe city council meetings and write reports on it. They also just completed a really ambitious and incredible, I don't even think it's really kind of been done before, type of project called Zooming with the Aldermen, where they went and tried to interview all of the aldermen. They ended up being, a few short for a variety of reasons. Usually, like, the alderman wasn't interested in it. But to have a collection of, interviews with these very powerful elected officials talking about their ward, talking about issues and policy, it's a great resource for people, not just to get to know who the elected officials are, but to really sort of city council work. So those are all available on our website, that collection, and we're gonna be taking down those videos in November, just because we don't want to seem like we're advocating for any particular candidate going into the municipal. So try to watch them before then. But if anyone's interested in sort of issues around city government, around city council, around mayors, I highly recommend joining that committee. So, through all of these different ways that we go about our work, it kind of reaffirms our commitment to making democracy work in a city that, we all love and care about and, actively want to be a part of. So for those of you who are newer to the league, I hope that you can find, somewhere that you want to sort of get involved in more. And for those of you that, have been a part of the league for a while, to find out that there are new things that we do that you might be interested in. I know for me, it's not just the work that I do that I'm really proud of, but the work that I know other people are doing that I can still amplify and talk about. So even though, I'm not a part of a particular committee, I still like to be like, oh my gosh, these people are doing the coolest thing ever. And I like to promote that. So it's like, feel free to share stuff on social media, feel free to share stuff with friends and family about, just what the league is doing as a whole. Like, you're a member of a community that, is both on sort of the micro level in the city, but there's also the state, there's also the national, there's also so many other cool things that the league is doing that you should be proud of. So I'm going to stop there. I'm sure there's probably some things that I've missed, but we do have other people, Catherine and Helene, who have been a part of the league, longer than me, who are also in leadership positions. So, if they've any other thing that they want to add, or if there's other things, like I really kind of wanted this conversation to be, part presentation, but also part, opportunity to sort of have a discussion amongst us, for people to ask questions and, for us to be as helpful as possible. Yeah, Margie? Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, okay. What I hoped you would talk about a little to add on, this was a fantastic presentation, but for the new people, how we arrive at our positions, like originally it used to be that when there was a new position proposed, it would be studied in just the units, and the units would be the way we arrived at our consensus to determine if we were going to be able to arrive at a consensus as a separate league. But we also, the last time, I thought was really kind of nice, we kind of expanded it because it was a very important consensus we were taking on, and we also had a briefing on it, and we also expanded it to committees. It seemed to me, it seemed like we were trying to be more inclusive. But if you could talk a little bit about that process, so people will know that we're a grassroots organization, and how extremely important our grassroots are to us.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Margie, for bringing that up. I think one of the most interesting experiences in my league work has really kind of been going to the conventions and sort of seeing what happens when you have different leagues who have, different issues, different priorities, different ideas sort of come together, and, you talk and discuss and debate, and you're seeing, is this something that, should be a league policy or not, or, having those sorts of conversations and then voting as a group on it. I think, we are not a top-down organization where we don't default to, whoever our presidents are, whoever our directors are. What we really do is, from our lowest levels, bring those ideas up to the top. And then have those collective conversations and vote together on it. So I always encourage, our members, even if they're not in leadership positions, to attend things like annual meetings or conventions, where you can really kind of be a part of those decision-making processes about the future of the league and what we stand for and what we promote. Yeah, Catherine?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to what you're saying, and this all volunteer. I know that a lot of people were getting involved after the 2016 election, and people wanted to do something, and some join ACLU. There are all these organizations, and what I noticed about the league and what people really loved is that you are actually part of it. If you have a good idea, we had several good ideas when we joined, and we weren't on the board. We did start up the Southside unit and everything, but we thought people in Cook County Jail are not convicted. They still have their voting rights. And we worked with a woman from the Oak Park League and started a program for registering voters in Cook County Jail. we partnered with Chicago Votes, thank God, because it became such a huge endeavor. And they took over the administration of that, and it's still going strong. But that started with 2 new members who had an idea. And because of our grassroots nature, because everybody, no matter what level in the league, has a voice to contribute, we were able to do that and get that program started, and then work with other organizations to propose legislation, which passed, so that now Cook County Jail is a voting site where machines can come in, and it's law that they have to do that because Cook County has more than 3 million people. All of this was a great league idea. Now, things were percolating, but it all came together. And I just want to brag about that program. During the primary, this last primary, Cook County Jail had the highest voting percentage of anyone in the city. It beat the city. So there was, I think it was kind of sadly, we were 20%, I think, right, Helene? But Cook County Jail had a 25% voting rate. And so that's the kind of thing you can do. Another thing, a few of us, Annie Logue, our president, when all of the questions of monuments were going on, remember, with Charlottesville and the Oath Keepers, I think, were that group. I don't remember. And we started all across the country, started evaluating our monuments and other kinds of commemorative offerings. And so Annie Logue said, you know, we really need a street in Chicago named after Ida B. Wells. And so the Southside Union said, heck yes. And so we took up the banner, and we worked with the 2 aldermen that shared a street we wanted to rename Balboa. But in the end, we got Congress Parkway, and it was Jane. We did a lot of things. That was very, very boots on the ground. We were down working the Ninth Ward because the alderman head of the transportation committee had thrown our
Ordinance,
the ordinance. Yeah, he deep sixed it. It was, you know, in the freezer, never to come out again. And
I was calling the mayor's office. I was at a Steve Miller Band concert, and I was like, oh no, I have to take a break and call the mayor's office to get it on the agenda. Like, I mean, we, you know, it's kind of that thing, you know, I always feel like this weird, and it's going to sound really corny and cheesy, but it's kind of that ancestral connection that I feel like, you know, some of the early suffragists who were, you know, out there doing like really wacky things to like get their point across about what they want. Like, there's some times where I'm just like, I am in the moment and I'm like, this is an important thing that we need to do, and we just go out there and do it. And that's, you know, like we're probably one of the more rebellious leagues as a result of that. But I like to say we probably just, like, you know, have a little bit more fun because we have sort of that energy. And that's where it's like, you know, it's so important for, you know, people to bring their ideas to the table. And like, you know, there's so much work to be done in Chicago, in the country, that it's like, to be a part of the league opens up so many doors to the kinds of things of, you know, actually affecting change that we want to see. And like having that badge of, you know, being a part of the league, you know, people are like, oh, you're a League of Women Voters person, I better take your call. I better take that meeting with you. You know, people know us and trust us in the work that we do because we have that strong foundation of researching stuff, policy, advocacy, our commitment to voter registration, those sorts of things.
So whenever you head towards the league office, which might happen more once we get out of the pandemic, you will go right by Ida B. Wells Drive on your way to Van Buren. And, you know, I'm always proud. I know it still gets me, especially when I see it on the Dan Ryan, the big sign, Ida B. Wells Drive. But the whole league is proud. It's a good one for the league.
You can, if you're walking to the league office in the Congress Hotel, which is just south of Roosevelt, is the plaque for the founding of the League of Women Voters. 'Cause
Yeah,
it-
they had a little
it's
nexus
in
there, didn't we?
Chicago, right.
Yeah, some key fun facts to point out, which, you know, I'm always proud of, is the league was founded in Chicago.
Well,
So, you know, we were definitely like on the forefront of that work. And also that, you know, Illinois was the first state to ratify women's suffrage. So, you know, there was a couple of other states that jumped in like right after Illinois did it, but we were still definitely the first. So that's also something to like be incredibly proud of, and the work that you're doing is like, you know, here in
Mhm.
Illinois is where so much of this stuff started, and, you know, we're
Mhm.
continuing that.
We were first by 3 hours.
I know.